What's going on, guys? So in our last video I went over everything in my order and the reason I made some of the twists that I did with this particular build and set up whenever all the components and the stuff that's going to be part of this install in this build. And this video where I'm going to be actually doing all the installations and getting everything on this bow and getting this bow completely put together and ready to start the tuning process. Everything from the quiver to tying in the nock points. So let's jump right into it because this could be a long one. Okay guys, so let's go ahead and get started here. I'm just gonna let you know ahead of time. Some things I'm doing, I'm kind of skipping through steps. That's only because, well, not because I don't want you guys to learn from my videos, but some things that there's so much content out there from other people who are either professionals or there's just a lot of content on how to do certain things that for the sake of time constraints, I don't want to get stuck spending a lot of time on. Let's just go ahead and work on the rest. What I've gone ahead and done, I've found the high point. Move this quiver out of the way. I found the high point on this rest, which is about right there at that maple inlay. And I have placed a piece of D-loop material and super glued it there. What that's doing is because this shelf is not radiused on both surfaces, I'm creating a high point for minimal contact of the arrow to the riser. You're already going to get that just off of the radius shelf and for down here. That's not a problem, but for right here you have a flat on the sight window. So I've done this with toothpicks or you could use matchsticks to do the same thing. I used a piece of D-loop material. I'm gonna see how I like this. I think it's gonna work out just fine. But all that's doing is it's creating that minimal contact point. And since this bow is cut just about right at center, the way I like to tune my setups, I wanna kick that arrow out just a little bit more. And this is giving me that strong 16th to an 8th, cut before center on my arrow to kind of start me down the path that I like to go as far as my arrow tune. So that's that. I'm gonna go ahead and get the rest material on here. This is Velcro brand loop side material. I just buy packages of adhesive backed hook and loop and then just rob the fuzzy loop portion out of it, and then I end up with a bunch of hook material laying all over the place. I'm just make sure it's stuck down real good so it's not coming back up on me later. But like I said, the biggest emphasis is making sure that this high point or this contact point and the high point of your shelf meet. And just to give you an idea of sound, you can't hear, that's quite a bit of difference. And if you're really need to get another arrow knocked quick, it can make a tremendous amount of difference. So there is the initial demo, and you can hear it makes no sound. Show you a close up if you can see it. You can see the D-loop material protruding out right there. Moving on, arrow holder. I need to speed this up or else it's going to be a really long video. It might have to be even a two-part, we'll see. But I mentioned in the last video, I usually use the quick shot arrow holder, but just for the sake of, I wanted to give this other arrow holder a try and see how much I like it, because it is about half the price of the Quick Shot. So we got the adhesive backing on there. Go ahead and flip it over. I've already cleaned this location with alcohol. And I'm not really gonna have a lot of options on where to put it. So I'm just gonna plan on putting it right there. Very self-explanatory is the arrow holder. And just to make sure it is going to work the way we want it, we'll grab our arrow and boom. Just like that. Tell you what, guys, I mentioned it before, if you do not have an arrow holder on your bow, you are doing yourself a great disservice, and I encourage you to go get one, because they are a lifesaver, especially when you're hunting. So next, I'm going to go ahead and tie in my nocks. Take out a nice sizable length of serving material here, and this is just regular roll of just general 8-ply or 8-strand, whatever they call it, tie-in material, serving material. It doesn't have to be anything specific, just you're tying in nocks. You do want it ideally to be bigger or the same size as the serving that was used on your string, and this is just a hair bigger, so that's going to work perfect. You can see a little, at least I hope you can see, there's a little silver mark right here. I already took care of marking my start point where I will begin tuning from on my nock height. And on this bow, I am starting, and all my other bows, I start with 5/8 nock high, and you work my way down. I usually end up somewhere around that 5/16 to a quarter mark. So I'm just gonna go ahead and get this tied in here. There's lots of, and you'll excuse, if I don't get real in depth on some descriptions of what I'm doing, there's a lot of videos out there that go into great detail about how to tie in nock points. This is, I think they call this like a granny knot. It's just single overhand knots, front, back, front, back, front, back. Work your way up the string. You don't want to pull these wicked tight, reefing down on them until you turn blue in the face, but you do want it taut. You don't want to move all over the string. And if this is done right, then you should be able to thread your nock up and down the string. And this is not a permanent nocking point. This is only temporary while I go through the tuning process, because like I said, this nock will end up getting adjusted up and down the string, so there's no point in doing something permanent that you can't move or whatever. I'd say that's going to be pretty good. That's, now that I've done those single overhands, front, back, working my way up the string, now I've got to this side, I'm going to do a double overhand to go ahead and tie that in place. Come in here with my knife and snip those. I snip those a little bit long, but burn them down. Careful not to burn your string. patch it down, make sure it's not attached to the actual string itself, just to the serving. So if I've done this right, I should be able to thread it up and down, and I can. So there you go. That's an adjustable nock point. You don't have to do that many knots. That's a lot of knots, but for the tuning process, I really don't want this thing to move. I'm gonna go ahead and slide down the string and tie the second one in place. So what you saw that I did right there at the very end, I go ahead and throw just a little bit of super glue on this serving at the top and the bottom, because if it's gonna separate or try to separate, I don't expect it with these strings. These are pretty well-made strings, high quality, but that's where it's gonna happen. So I just go ahead and throw a little dab of super glue right there just to hold everything together. But here is my starting nock sets tied in. I hope you can see those. Like I said, these are adjustable tie-in nocks, done with granny knots, so they can be threaded up and down the string as I tune. I did do the top one a little bit tight. It is movable. I can still, reef down on it to get it to move down the string, but I really don't want it to move if I can help it, especially while I'm trying to go through the tune process. And then this one's done a little bit looser, so this one moves up and down the string pretty freely. But good fit, which you want. Little to no room for the nock to slide up and down. So there's that. It's the nock tie-in. So I've done everything that I can do at this point with the bow strung. Now I'm going to go ahead and unstring the bow and do the final touches, and we'll get this thing wrapped up. Okay, I got everything unstrung. Now I'm going to go ahead and install the silencers. So what these are, all these are is about 1.5 to 2-inch long pieces of shell from paracord, 550 paracord, with guts all taken out, so all the white strands are removed from the inside, and all you're left with is the outer casing. I'm going to do 2 green with 2 black, 1 on top, 1 on the bottom. I have pre-established on my string a couple points that are symmetric from each end, that are in a position that I am comfortable starting with. And then we will work from there, but it's usually not too super duper crucial that you have them exact, but for there is a ideal place in my mind, the way that I like to do it, to place these, and I usually just end up going down about 10 inches from the where the string leaves the bow. So from the point where the string is no longer in contact with the bow limb, I come down from there about 10 inches. That's all that I did here. That's like nothing special. It's like you could really be however you want it to be. So and I am separating the 2 colors of string material to do this, to get these silencers into the middle of the string. I would say that's probably somewhat of a common sense thing, but you never know, so it's good to mention. So there you can see those there. I like where they're at. They seem to be pretty symmetric. So now I'm just kind of pop the string a little bit. Kind of come in here and push them together a little better there. Same thing with the bottom ones. I think they're fine. And kind of get them started fraying. As you shoot this, they're going to fray out pretty quick. But I just try to give them a little bit of a head start. You can see they're already fraying out real nice. They'll all look like that black one does right there. You just kind of keep, you know, thumping the string and reaching up here and doing this. I like to go ahead and do this now because if you don't, then you just end up with fighting these, wanting to little pieces of paracord wanting to just fall out of the string, and that's aggravating. These are fraying out real nicely, but yeah, you don't want to be fighting that while you're trying to do everything else. I still got clickers to put on here and a quiver. But all right, that's pretty good, I think, to start with. We'll take that for now so you kind of get the idea. That's the silencers. I won't spend too much more time talking about that. Now I'm just gonna jump right into the clicker. I'm gonna be getting it put on here. Guys, for the sake of, like I say, keeping this video short, I'm not gonna go into a ton of detail about clickers and how to install them. There's a bunch of videos from guys like Aaron Snyder and Joel Turner that talk about how to set these up properly. I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to give you a whole lot of guidance. I know that sounds bad, but there's people that explain it better than I do and that are more inclined to give you better direction on this. So I'll direct you to their videos and let you watch it and learn it from them, as well as go to Joel Turner's video over at Shot IQ and watch his video on how to replace the stock string and chain that comes with these clickers with a piece of D-loop material. And he has a whole entire video dedicated to just how to do that. So get over there, watch that video, and it'll explain everything that I've done here without me having to make this video any longer than it has to. So that's that. I'm going to now go ahead and get this quiver on here so we can be wrapping this assembly up. So taking this string off, be sure to keep track when you take this thing off of, you know, which end's up, which end's down. It may seem, you know, pretty, you know, non-intuitive, but people make mistakes. So to get these Selway quivers to slide on, what I do, I go ahead and take a wet rag like this. This is just paper towel, and I'm going to wipe it on the limbs to make them a little slicker for this quiver to come over top. It doesn't hurt the limbs at all, but they are a snug fit, so it definitely helps. And they got a long ways to go down these limbs to get them to fit tight. So don't be afraid to wipe that water on there. It'll dry it up afterwards. Get that wet to get that started. And also, don't forget to have your quiver facing the right direction before you start either, because that's a bad thing to figure out once you're plumb. Gotta get it over near the top of the clicker plate here, which is no big deal. Just force it over, it'll go. So we got slid all the way down there fine. Now I'm going to pull this out of camera view for a second so I can really get this down over this fade. This is where you're really going to want to get that water under here. It's not going to hurt it any. I mean, it's fiberglass lamination, so don't worry about that. But you do want the quiver all the way up on these fades. If you can, you don't want it interfering with the functioning portion of the limb. So try to get them up there as high as you can, and this one is. So that's great. That'll work just fine. Just wipe some of this excess water off. So there you go. There's the hood. Now, just gonna go ahead and wipe this down on the bottom limb. Get it slicked up a little bit and slide the keeper side on. Again, make sure that you're sliding on facing the right direction and all that, so you're not disappointed once you get it reefed on here. All right, so we're up to that point now. Wet it up and send it home. And that's there. I also don't have them quite setting on top of the riser either. You know, I have a little bit of space in between to give room for movement, but that's the quiver installed. 5-air subway quiver. So we're that much closer to having a complete bow. We got this thing strung back up, and at this point, with everything pretty well installed, I am not going to worry too much about this string coming back off again at this point, at least not coming back off completely. So this is when I normally just go ahead and slip this tip protector on over, and it also will keep this string in place for the foreseeable future. There's not really I don't think a good trick on installing these. You just kind of gotta work them open a little bit, and they'll kind of shrink back down on their own. But with these reinforced tips, it could fight me a little. We'll see. Everything's gonna go now. Yep, we're over the string. So you also want to be careful you don't pull the string out of the grooves. I don't know if it's ever happened. I'm sure it has. I'm sure everything's happened at least once. And there you go. String protector is on, which will also, or the tip protector, sorry, which will also keep that string in those grooves and keep you from having to worry about the string slipping out of those bottom grooves as you string it and unstring the bow. So that's pretty well it, guys. That's everything installed. I'm gonna be doing the final clicker installation off camera just for the sake of time, because these are gonna be long videos, and get it set up to me. Like I said, I encourage you guys to watch some other guys out there, the pros, watch their videos on proper clicker installation, because if you don't, a mistake that I made that I will forewarn you, if you don't have form in pretty good hand and a good grip on your form, then everything's going to change as far as your clicker is concerned. You could end up with a string that's too short or too long, and you don't want that. So it's best to just go ahead and do it correctly, and make sure you got your form dialed in and consistent, before you go putting your clicker on, because if you're off, if you're too short, too long, whatever, you get a little bit of wiggle room and you want to leave that for yourself. That's why the extra long string, but you don't want to screw yourself either by being really inconsistent prior to the installation. So anyway, guys, this video's been long enough. As you can see, this is pretty well everything installed as far as the components. Next video, we'll start going into the arrow setup and start the process of doing some bare shafting on this bow. But like I said, so far I'm pretty pleased, and I think it's going to work out great. So be sure to like and subscribe, and ring the bell icon to make sure that you don't miss the next videos as they drop. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Shoot straight.